Now releasing all goblins.
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further as you can use the promo code MTGMudsta to get you 5% off anything on the site. Or if you're in Canada like me, you can use the same promo code at Multizone to get 10% off your orders of singles. If cards aren't what you're looking for, Original Magic Art has playmats, tokens, and sweet art that you can use that same promo code to help you get 5% off your order there. If you're looking to bling out your cards, using Alter Sleeves is a great way to do so, and you can click the affiliate link in my About section to help out the channel as you make an order. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game is another themed one, with each of us playing a monocolored deck. I am playing Titania, keeping Crater of Behemoth, Command Beacon, Realms Uncharted, Kamal Fist of Krosa, Snow-Covered Forest, and a Green Sun Zenith. Nick is playing Nadaar, keeping Court of Grace, Stonecloaker, Sword of the Animist, Tome of Legends, Treasure Map, Land Tax, and Plains. Max is playing Ragavan, keeping a Mountain, Exotic Orchard, Audacious Reshapers, Felwar Stone, Inspiring Statuary, Goldspan Dragon, and a Whisper Silk Cloak. Martin has recently sleeved up Acererak, playing Contamination, Dictative Erebos, Gravecrawler, 2 Snow-Covered Swamps, Undead Augur, and Liliana the Dark Realms. I win the die roll and start us off. I play Snow-Covered Forest and cast Green Sun Zenith for 0, getting to fetch Dryad Arbor and put it to field. Nick plays a Plains and follows it up with a Land Tax, passing to Max. Max plays a Mountain and casts his commander, Ragavan the Nimble Pilferer. He then passes to Martin. Martin plays a Swamp and also has a 1-drop, playing a Gravecrawler and passing. I play Tectonic Edge and pass. Nick's Land Tax triggers and lets him go find 2 plains before drawing for turn. To shortcut things, I played an Uncharted Realms, picking Wooded Foothills, Nykthos, Crystal Vein, and Castle Garenbrig. I give the pile to Max to choose from, and he gives me a Crystal Vein and the Fetch Land, and Nick then plays a Tome of Legends, passing to Max. Max plays a Mountain for turn, and swings at me with his commander for 2. Ragavan exiles Life from the Loam off the top of my library, which Max smartly chooses to leave in exile. Max then sacrifices the treasure token he made to Ragavan to help cast an Inspiring Statuary, and passes turn. Martin plays another Snow-Covered Swamp, and casts an Undead Augur. He then moves to combat, swinging the Gravecrawler at Max for 2. I draw for turn, and play a Crystal Vein, sacrificing it for 2 colorless to help cast Titania ahead of schedule. Titania returns the Castle Garenbrig that was put into my graveyard from the Uncharted Realms, and I pass turn. Nick gets his Land Tax trigger, finding 2 more plains. He's then able to cast Nadaar, choosing to venture into the Lost Mine of Phandelver as his commander enters. This lets him scry 1, and he bottoms it, passing to Max. Max draws, and swings Ragavan at Martin for 2, exiling a Heraldic Banner off the top. He plays an Exotic Orchard, and then casts the banner, choosing red, obviously, before tapping it and 2 other artifacts to cast an Audacious Reshaper with the help of the Inspiring Statuary. He then passes to Martin. Martin drops a Myriad Landscape, and swings the Gravecrawler at Nick for 2. Nick decides to take the 2, and Martin then plays an Apprentice Necromancer, and passes. I play a Wooded Foothills as my land for turn, and pass. Nick gets another Land Tax trigger, finding 2 more plains. This time around in his main phase, he casts Knight of the White Orchid to go and find a plains. He then plays a plains, and casts Mind Stone, and then taps 2 for Sword of the Animist. He then swings Nadaar at Max, going deeper into the mine and making a treasure token before passing. Max draws and plays a Mountain, casting a Whisper Silk Cloak, and equips it to Ragavan. He swings at me, exiling Beast Within off the top, and uses the treasures from Ragavan and improvises with his other artifacts to cast Beast Within, targeting Titania. I respond to this, defending her with heroic intervention, and Max passes turn. Martin draws before swinging his Gravecrawler at Nick. Nick finally blocks, letting Martin draw a card and lose a life from the Augur trigger. Martin then casts Liliana of the Dark Realm, and upticks her to fetch a swamp. Martin then passes, and I crack my Wooded Foothills on his end step, getting another snow-covered forest, and creating a 5/3 elemental token before moving to my turn. I draw, forgetting to untap my 2 lands. I play an Inventor's Fair, and pass to Nick. Nick sacrifices a treasure and activates his Tome of Legends, drawing a card on my end step. Nick gets his land tax trigger once more, finding 2 more plains, and draws. He plays a plains, and swings at Liliana with both of his creatures. And he gets to venture into the Lost Mine once more, giving the Undead Augur -4/-0. Martin chumps Nadaar with the Apprentice Necromancer, which has him losing a life and drawing a card from the Augur. Nick then plays a Court of Grace in his post-combat main phase, becoming the Monarch and drawing a card. Max activates the Reshaper on Nick's end step, sacrificing a treasure and flipping it into the Hammer of Perforos, taking 2 in the process. Max draws for turn and casts a Goldspan Dragon. He then swings Ragavan at Nick for 3, and the Goldspan at me for 5. The Goldspan makes a treasure, and Ragavan makes one as well when he connects, exiling Thalia's Lancers off the top, and taking the crown, making Max the Monarch. He then casts the Lancers in his post-combat main phase, and goes to tutor for a tally, putting it to hand, and then draws at the end of turn from the Monarchy. Martin draws, tutoring a swamp with Liliana, and then playing it. He casts the Gravecrawler from his graveyard, and passes to me. I draw, and play a Mouth of Renome, and then swing my Dryad Arbor at Max for 1. I take the Monarch, and then pass, drawing at the end of my turn. Nick makes a Spirit from the Court of Grace on his upkeep, and draws. He plays a Plains, and swings his Commander at Martin for 3. Nick then finishes the Mine, drawing a card, and Nadaar is now able to buff everyone. He then casts Search the Premises before passing turn. At the end of turn, Max activates the Reshapers once more, flipping into a Tome of Legends off the top and taking 1. Max draws and plays a Yavimaya Cradle of Growth, making all lands forests. He then plays a Swiftfoot Boots before improvising out a Tally. When he moves to combat, Nick decides to cast Path to Exile on a Tally before letting it swing and exiles it. Max then swings Ragavan at Nick for payback, and the dragon goes at me once more. This gives him back the Monarchy, and he flips a Gift of Immortality off of Nick's library. In his post-combat main phase, Max then plays a Felwar Stone before casting the gift onto the Goldspan Dragon, and then draws at the end of turn from being the Monarch. Martin draws and upticks Liliana to go and find a swamp, and then plays it. He then plays Liliana Heretical Healer, and then casts Acererak, going for the Tome of Annihilation. Entering the tome has everyone losing 1 life, and Martin then passes, discarding a swamp to be down to hand size. At the end step, I pop my Mouth of Renome on the Audacious Reshapers, which Max responds to by activating it, and sacrifices his treasure to flip into a Wayfarer's Bauble, taking 6. I untap and draw. I cast a Woodland Bellower, which lets me go and find a Tireless Provisioner, and I move to combat. I then swing 2 elementals at Max for a total of 10. I become the Monarch, and draw on the end step, while Nick decides to activate his Tome of Legends, and cracks a clue, drawing 2 cards on my end step, and showing me up. Nick untaps and is sad he can't use his land tax trigger. He plays a Plains, and equips the Sword of the Anime onto the Knight of the White Orchid, and then follows up by casting a Ketra's Monument. He swings both creatures at Max, venturing into the Dungeon of the Mad Mage this time, gaining 1 life. Max then blocks Nadaar, which Nick saves by flashing in a Stonecloaker, exiling a fetch land, and bouncing Nadaar to his hand. Max then takes 3. Nick then recasts Nadaar in his second main phase, and gets to scry 1 as he moves further into the dungeon. Max draws and plays his own Sword of the Anime before equipping the boots and the sword to the dragon. He then improvises out Hanwar Garrison and follows up with a Valakut Exploration. He does the same attacks as usual, hitting me for 6 and Nick for 3. Ragavan flips a Thorough Investigation, which he casts. He then draws a card from being the Monarch at the end of turn and passes to Martin. Martin draws, and uptakes Liliana once more and plays a Swamp. He then plays out a Contamination to the chagrin of the table and swings the Gravecrawler at Max. Max blocks, but before damage, Martin flashes in a Dictate of Erebos. The Gravecrawler then dies, forcing everyone to sacrifice a creature, and letting Martin draw a card and lose a life from the Undead Augur trigger. This also has the benefit of triggering the other Liliana to flip, which he then upticks to make everyone discard a card and passes to me. I draw and play a Snow-Covered Forest, and make a treasure token from the Tireless Provisioner. I then swing Titania and the Elemental token at the Dark Realms of Liliana, and another Elemental at the Heretical Healer. Martin chumps the Elemental, coming to the Heretical Healer, saving her, and making everyone sacrifice a creature to the Dictate trigger. Thankfully the big Liliana dies though, and Martin draws a card and loses a life off the Augur dying. With nothing else, I pass. Nick makes a Spirit token, draws, and plays a Plains. He then activates and draws off the Tome before swinging the Knight at Liliana, and the 2 Spirits and the Stonecloaker at Max. Max blocks the Spirit while Liliana dies. Nick then uses the treasure token from the dungeon to help cast Smothering Tithe, and then drops a treasure map before drawing a card from being the Monarch at the end of turn. Max draws and plays an Urza's Saga. Technically the Saga should die at this point, but we don't actually catch that. He exiles a Gilded Lotus to the Valakut Exploration. He then makes his usual attacks with the Dragon going at me and Ragavan going at Nick. He gets to find a land from the Sword of the Anime trigger and exiles another card after he's done shuffling, thanks to the Valakut Exploration. He flips a Plains, which stays in exile, and then cycles a Desert of the Fervent to draw a card. Max then casts Stolen Strategy, and then a Gilded Lotus off of the Valakut Exploration. He puts to stack an Overloaded Vandal Blast, and Nick cracks a clue and scries with the treasure map in response, and then all artifacts get wiped away. At the end of Max's turn, each of his opponents take 1 as he puts the land of the exiled from the Valakut Exploration into his graveyard, while Nick cycles a Drifting Meadow, drawing a card, and Nick then gains a treasure token at the end of Max's turn since Max doesn't pay the 2 as he draws from being the Monarch. Martin sacrifices the Contamination and draws a card. He casts Beseech the Queen and goes to find a Bolas's Citadel before playing a Witch's Cottage, and puts Pontiff of Blight on top of his library. He then casts Bolas's Citadel, and knowing what's on top, casts the Pontiff of Blight, paying 6 life thanks to the Citadel's ability. He then casts a Cloud Key, losing 3 more, naming creatures, and then casts a Harvester of Souls off the top, and then passes. I untap, draw, and in my main phase decide it's all or nothing as I slam out a Craterhoof Behemoth. With its trigger on the stack, Nick casts Swords to Plowshares on my Titania, while Max casts Fury Storm to make 2 more copies of the swords. He targets the Craterhoof Behemoth and my Woodland Bellower. I gain 16 life, while my creatures only get +2/+2 and Trample. I then swing at Max for 12, and he first strikes the Provisioner with the Lancers, and then soaks up 3 of the damage from the Elemental, taking a total of 4. I become the Monarch, drawing at the end of turn, and passing. Nick gets a Spirit token from the court, and draws. He then swings his Commander at me, and 2 Spirits and the Stonecloaker at Max. Max bites the dust at this point, and Nick becomes the Monarch. In his second main phase, Nick then casts Sun Titan to get back the Bounty Agent from his graveyard, and then casts a Palace Jailer, exiling the Pontiff of Blight, and then moving to his end step, drawing from being the Monarch. Martin untaps and draws, casting the Book of the Vile Darkness off of his Citadel, and then Liliana the Last Hope. He then casts off the top of Phyrexian Altar, and down takes Liliana to mill 2, and he returns Liliana Heretical Healer to his hand. He then plays a Swamp off the Citadel before casting a Bone Miser. He recasts his commander, and as he enters the new room from venturing, has to discard a card, which has him pitching a Swamp, making 2 black mana off the Bone Miser. He then sacrifices his commander for another black mana, making everyone sack a creature while he draws a card off the Harvester. He then casts Heartless Summoning off the top, and flips Little Liliana, making a zombie token as well. He then uses the floating mana and 2 black to cast a Bloodline Necromancer, reanimating Acererak as it comes in, and he gets a Venture trigger, which he moves to have everyone sacrifice a creature, artifact, or land. Martin discards a land at this point, making 2 more black mana, and Acererak gets bounced back to Martin's hand since he hasn't completed the dungeon. He then recasts him for only 1 black mana, gets another Venture trigger, and moves to the final room of the Tomb of Annihilation, making the Demon token. He then upticks Heretical Healer, making everyone discard a card again, with Martin discarding a Felwar Stone and drawing a card from the Bone Miser. He sacrifices his commander again, making everyone sacrifice a creature to the Dictate, and then sacrifices the Bloodline Necromancer, making a black mana as well. Martin then uses 4 of the floating mana to help cast Shouldered the Whispering One. He then ends his turn and makes a zombie token off of the Book of Vile Darkness. I untap and draw, putting out Elemental Bond before cracking the command beacon to get Titania, putting her to my hand. I then cast her, drawing a card from the bond as she enters, and return the beacon to play before passing. At the end of turn, Nick casts Ephemerate on his Sun Titan, blinking it and returning Tome of Legends as it re-enters. On Nick's upkeep, he sacrifices Nadaar to Sheoldred and makes an Angel token with the Court of Grace since he's the Monarch still. The Ephemerate also rebounds, flickering the Sun Titan to bring back Nadaar, which as his commander enters, ventures, and has him exiling a Strip Mine and Delver's Torch off the top, which he's allowed to play this turn. Nick then draws for turn, and he casts the Torch and then Idyllic Tutor, going to find a teleportation circle. He equips the Torch to the Stonecloaker and swings it at Martin while the Sun Titan and Bounty Agent come at me. The Sun Titan's on attack trigger targets the Oketra's Monument, which in response, Martin activates Bolas' Citadel, sacrificing 6 creatures, the Cloud Key, Liliana the Last Hope. This has Martin drawing 7 cards from his Harvester of Souls, and because of the Dictate triggers, wipes away all of Nick's creatures except for the Stonecloaker. Each of Martin's opponents then lose 10, but unfortunately for Martin, he still dies from the Stonecloaker connecting. Nick then recasts Nadaar in his second main phase, and completes the dungeon, drawing 3, and getting to cast a Sabine's Reclamation for free, which returns the Bounty Agent. He then plays out a Wall of Omens, drawing a card, and a Solemn Simulacrum, going to find a basic. He then drops Teleportation Circle, and at the end of turn, flickering Nadaar before venturing back into the Lost Mine, and draws from the Monarchy, passing. I draw, but unfortunately have nothing to play, so I scoop to Nick's board. Game review time. So it seemed like in this game in particular, Titania didn't hit any of her draw spells, and without things like Greater Good, Life's Legacy, Elemental Bond, and Garruk's Uprising, the deck can run out of steam quite quickly after a board wipe. It also didn't help that I lost 3 creatures the turn that I cast the Craterhoof Behemoth, the Craterhoof Behemoth included. Martin's Acererak deck was pretty sweet, but unfortunately he did misread the ability, and would have preferred to go to a different dungeon instead of the Tomb of Annihilation. We did get another game with this deck though on camera, which will hopefully showcase the deck in a better light. I was pretty impressed with the Ragavan deck considering I went expecting very little for a 1-drop commander. I guess this is probably why it's so strong in Modern and Legacy, and the fact that it steals cards and ramps you with 0 downside other than having to connect is insane. I don't think anyone's surprised when I say I wasn't expecting a lot from Nick's mono white deck, but I'm glad that he built it, because it was pretty sweet. He really got to showcase just how strong Venture is, and I'm actually kind of surprised considering we only have 3 choice of dungeons, just how good they can be. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, Friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.